What's up, strongest men, women, and children from blocks all around the world? I am my block's strongest man, and we have Isaac from Hunger Smash Fitness joining us in just a moment. He's having some technical issues, and of course, our special guest for the evening, George. Correct me if I'm wrong. Georgia's strongest man, California's strongest man, and now sixth place finalist at Clash on the Coast 2020, Dr. Andrew Mock. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome that you were able to join us. We're very excited to have you. So I'm first and foremost, I'm most interested in what type of medicine do you practice, and how did that gain your interest?
Yeah, I wish it were a simple answer. I could just answer one specialty, but I'm still in training. So I'm a family and preventive medicine resident. So two different specialties. Your family medicine physicians, like your general practitioner, cradle to grave, including delivering babies. So your personal doctor. And then the second specialty, preventive medicine, brings in this whole bigger population piece. So it can be your local county department of public health, all the way up to the CDC. So it's even broader than family medicine actually is. But then the big area that I focus in at my current institution is lifestyle medicine. So I spend a lot of time focusing on actually teaching people what they need to be doing to take care of their health with respect to nutrition, exercise, sleep, all of that sort of thing.
Preventative things, in other words.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's not quite enough of that going around. We kind of treat the symptoms after they're already there, and preventative certainly has a really big value and importance for sure. So how long have you been a resident?
So I'm in a 4-year program. You do your 4 years of undergraduate, and then you go on to medical school, right? You do your 4 years of medical school. Once you graduate medical school, you are a physician, and you can't really practice till you do an intern year. And then after that, you can technically go do whatever you want, but you have to get someone to cover you or a hospital to hire you. So now I'm in the part of being board certified in family medicine. And so I'm in my 3rd of 4 years to get the 2 different board certifications. That's
awesome. So how does the knowledge base transfer over from medicine to strongman? I mean, it's a physiological activity, right? So there's got to be a lot of crossover there.
Yeah, and this is actually the piece that got me into medicine itself. So, when I was like 16 years old, I decided I was going to be a bodybuilder, and just got into lifting, and lifting took me into getting interested in anatomy. And then I wanted to learn about how the food actually worked. Then I really liked teaching it. So I was like, well, how do I learn about the body, but then also teach it? And I was like, okay, well, I guess a physician is a thing to do. And then at some point along the way, I realized, okay, I actually like helping people with this sort of thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got a biology degree and stopped there. So I have the 4-year, and every time somebody brings up anatomy, I say the one thing I remember about anatomy and physiology class is action potential and graded potential. Looks like Isaac's back. Hey, Isaac, what's up, buddy?
Hey, sorry about that. The Wi-Fi was going haywire, so
no
I reset
worries.
it. Hopefully it works.
Yeah, we're talking about Andrew's background and how he got into medicine, his residence program that he's going through, and the different types of medicine that he practices. Isaac's in a medical-related field as well. Do you want to kind of talk shop a little bit, Isaac?
Yeah, sure. So I work as a physical therapy assistant, and then I'm going back to school to get my doctor of physical therapy at the moment. So, yeah, some experience, some little hearsay here and there. But yeah. What all do you do? Sorry, I missed it. What all do you do in medicine?
Yeah, so I was explaining three different specialties, but they're all interrelated to me. So family medicine, your general practitioner, seeing pretty much everybody. Preventive medicine is my 2nd board certification I'll be going for, which is kind of population health focus, like bigger picture things, all the way up to the CDC at the highest level. But then the big area that I really kind of specialize in, if you want to say it that, is lifestyle medicine, really focusing on getting back to the root and the first line treatment of things like diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, substance use, and social connectedness. So I spent a lot of time focusing on exercise, and actually am working with our national organization, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, on the resistance training curriculum that's going to go out to all the residencies. So hopefully your doctor can actually know how to tell you how to lift.
Yeah, the one thing you mentioned there that really interested me was you talked about sleep, the importance of sleep, and then you also talked earlier before Isaac got on about kind of a focus in delivering babies and whatnot. So those things kind of go together. Have you ever come upon a situation where you have to help somebody figure out how to sleep with a newborn?
Yeah, so my wife and I actually have a 5-year-old daughter, so I can speak from personal experience on that one, balancing that work and training. And man, the best advice there is when kiddo goes to sleep, so do you. You just sleep when you can in that one.
Yeah, that's interesting. Isaac, I think I cut you off. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely agree with that. We have my wife and I have a 2.5-year-old, and then our youngest is almost 1. So yeah, he's a couple more days and he'll turn 1. So yes, we're still kind of in that stage where like the younger one, he usually sleeps through the night, but not all the time, and it's annoying. It's and having 2 in diapers is also not a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. So for everybody watching, by the way, just a quick reminder to like this stream, subscribe, and then when we're all done here, head over to Isaac's Hunger Smash Fitness YouTube channel as well. Subscribe to him as well. And I need to shout out the sponsor of this stream. So we are being brought to you by Garage Gym Life Media this evening. We're going to play you a 1-minute clip to help you learn all about the awesome stuff that they're doing over there at Garage Gym Life Media. So check this out.
Training in a home gym, especially if you're training by yourself, can be tough because sometimes you just don't have the motivation to go in your garage or your basement and get it done. And that's why we stream competitions every month on the Garage Gym Life Media YouTube channel. I'm John Greaves, the third founder of Garage Gym Life Media, and after 20 years of training in a home gym, I can tell you that there's some days when I just don't feel like training. And those are the days when I put on some sort of training video or other strength-related content to give me the extra motivation I need to get in there and get it done. There is nothing more motivating than seeing people achieving their goals at a powerlifting meet or a strongman competition. And that's why month after month, we provide that content to you right there in the comfort of your own home on our YouTube channel. Plus, we leave it up forever so you can always just throw it on in the background anytime you need that extra dose of motivation to get you going. And that's why if you're not already a subscriber to Garage Gym Life Media, I invite you to take advantage of this opportunity to add this powerful training tool into your arsenal, because I want you to succeed right there in the best gym in town.
So I hope you guys in the audience got something great out of that. Head over to Garage Gym Life Media after we're done here and subscribe to them. They're doing some awesome stuff there showing the power of what's possible out of garage gyms. Stan Carradine went all the way to Worlds out of a garage gym, so definitely check them out. So yeah, back to what we were discussing, Andrew. How did you first hear about Clash on the Coast? How did that first come across your desk? Because it really was, I think, an exceptional thing that Anthony Furman put together for the middleweights, for the record breakers, had a live stream. He just did it all the right way. So how did you first get introduced to that idea?
Yeah, so Jackson, one of the promoters in the contest, actually lived over here in San Diego. And so we were real familiar with him because I'm just east of LA. And so we knew of him, and there may or may not have been some conversations at Nationals last year about him and Anthony Furman having these big ideas and seeing where those were going to go. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but there might have been a conversation early on back in October of last year that alluded to some bigger things. And then Jackson kind of released his big announcement. And so we heard through the grapevine that way too.
Awesome. How did Anthony go about choosing? Because there's so many great middleweights. Anthony San Lorenzo is a good friend of the show. And so how did he go about choosing?
Yeah, so from what I could tell, like the 10 pros that were invited were 10 active pros that they felt, were consistently showing good results. And then we took the online qualifier with the different events and just said, who's the best out of in the world in these online qualifying events? So they took top 20 from the online qualifier and then a couple alternates. So I was actually the last alternate to come off the list and get invited to the show. Actually, 3 weeks from the contest, I was invited to the show.
Okay, and you are a pro?
I am not a pro. So the closest I have come to my pro card is I lost it on my first event of Nationals last year when I dropped my yoke 5 feet from the line, but I took 7th at Nationals last year in 231.
Yeah, another monster who was at Clash, who's been on the show also before, who I believe also is not a pro, is Nick Stock. That guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, he actually just had he was at Georgia Strongman this past weekend. I think him and Bob Schwartz, neither one that have pro cards, but both monsters in the field. I think Bob has taken 4th multiple times at Nationals, and so just missed his pro card. Been around for a long time.
Yeah, Bob is Chattahoochee Strongman on IG, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. So of all the events that happened at Clash, what was your favorite event?
Man, the beach events just kind of crushed it for me. I think it was just a cool opportunity to be able to do it on the sand. It was miserable to do it on the sand, but both the loading medley and the kegs were really cool just as far from a spectator sport and being able to put on a show. I think those were probably the favorite events. I won't say the car because it was just miserable, but it did look kind of cool.
The car looked miserable for everybody, even the people that did like Nick did really well on it, and it still looked miserable. But yeah, from a spectator's point of view, those sand events looked awesome. But the first thing in my mind was like, this must suck for the competitors.
Yeah, I think sand was everywhere by the end of the day. I think I still have sand in my gym bag over there. So a little bit of South Carolina came back with me to California in the bottom of my bag.
I'm sure. But even like with the keg, how do you get any leg drive on sand?
Yeah, I've never missed a keg in a contest, and I just missed the last keg, not enough oomph. But if you stepped, it was going to give. So you had to wait that extra split second for your feet to settle and then go. I don't know how Richie M could just launch him like he did with, I mean, it's just insane explosive power, but there was a little bit of adjustment that had to be done with the sand. And I don't know how to describe it. It's just kind of a feel thing. You have to be there to feel it.
Yeah, even the loading medley. And what's up, Juan Daniel? You've been following me on all my World's Strongest Man content, so thanks for jumping in on our Clash on the Coast content. I'm sure you'll like this just as much. Thanks for jumping in, and ask any questions of our guests that you like. I'm sure he'll be happy to oblige. But yeah, that loading medley also seemed really, really. What was it? 4 implements? I forget.
Should have been 4 or 5. Let's think about them. So the massive blue barrel, which was the bane of everybody's existence, the anvil, the tire itself, and that big block. Am I missing something else? The fire hydrant. So 5 implements.
The fire hydrant. Yeah. That's right.
That's right. Me and the fire hydrant actually were really close friends, and my skin's finally healed. So I don't know what happened, but it took a nice chunk out of my arm. Jeez. And it's finally still, the redness has just gone away.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that bad. You have sharp edges all over it, and plus it was probably really hot too, baking in the sun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And any slip and that was just complicated by the sand.
Unbelievable. So you can totally tell me you don't want to talk about this, but I think I've seen on your IG lately, do you have a leg injury going on, and do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. So I mean, my big thing was, if I make it to this contest, I knew that I was going to do really well in the heats. Statically, I'm the weakest guy that was at that contest because I was the last one to come in out of the qualifiers, but I had no worry at all coming out of the heats as long as I was healthy, because I'm a kind of a moving event specialist. And so I knew me and Reed Tompkins had it pretty locked in our heat, unless Jordan Donaldson came in at like his peak form. So, I mean, we came out of the heats really well. And then in that, the first event of the finals, the axle clean and press, I went to continental clean from the chest up to the shoulders on the second attempt. And when I caught it, I just had a big pop. Pop that size that, people can hear around you. I knew what that meant. So I knew right away my ACL was gone. And so typically that swells pretty fast. So we just left the knee wraps on the entire day and cranked them down extra tight for the car. Well, I couldn't actually move the car, so it didn't really matter. I was able to somewhat compete throughout the day I really wanted to get to stones. So I thought I had the world record stone in me going into the contest, but it wasn't there that day. But I was at least happy to tie Canby and take second on the stones.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you came in 6th overall out of 10 finalists, right?
Ninth. Yeah.
9th. Oh, 9th. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, to make it to the finals with an injury, it's like JF Corona in Worlds, like just doing unbelievable stuff with a leg injury.
So it's good. No, I mean, I'm definitely happy. This is my first big injury that I've ever had to deal with. I had the ACL reconstructed. Tomorrow will be 4 weeks. So, man, it's like everything, like having to train myself how to walk properly. I'm not having trouble moving around, but just like going up and down stairs takes a big conscious effort. Thankfully, I can do body weight squats to a box now. And like over the next week or two, I'll be able to start adding a tiny amount of weight. So like a 15-pound bar or something like that. So just be a steady process.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question for you from the audience. So Juan Daniel says, I think if I remember correctly, Mock did 0 reps on the car deadlift, but deadlift was looking good in training. Was fatigue setting in, and how hard is it doing multiple events over several days?
Oh man, that car deadlift. I thought my car deadlift would, it's actually been one of those events I've had a lot of trouble with in Strongman. I don't know if I've ever hit a rep in contests, but I think I really figured it out over this past year. And Alex Bromley, who's a good side handle deadlifter and the owner of the gym where I train and my training partner, he was hitting some weight and I felt like I was hanging with him on the car deadlift. So I knew I'd really brought it up, but that thing was just heavy. Sean Shoemaker busted out however many thousands of reps he did, and everybody.
I was just going to mention him. Yeah,
he was game over. But man, that was actually a really low point for me because the knee was hurt, and I felt like the event could have been good for me, but I just didn't budget. So I'm over there sitting on the sidelines, just thinking, all right, I'm done. I'm not going to do any more. And then I keep hearing the car not move at all, and I'm like, oh, Dan zeroed it. Everybody else is zeroing it. Okay, maybe it's actually heavy and I'm just not, a complete waste of space right now. So it was an interesting moment where I was like, okay, all right, it's fine. We'll get back there. What was the second part of that question? I missed it.
You're still muted, John.
Oh, sorry. Well, you can read it. How hard is it doing multiple events over several days?
Yeah, so that was interesting. I don't know. I actually feel like we do a pretty good bit of training volume, and we're basically in a desert. So we have, this past week it was almost 110 here. And so I feel like I hold up pretty well as far as a lot of volume and lots of events. So going into the finals, even though I got injured in the first event, I felt like I had not really done too much. The moving events were pretty fast. So I think that's where guys were really feeling the fatigue, as if it was taking them a full minute of work to finish that up. So I think guys were fatigued, but I think what's unique about the top 10, 11, including Tyler, is that these are the fast guys. So they probably had a whole lot less fatigue than the guys were taking, the full minute to do the moving events.
Good answer. Juan also asks, do both of you prep for heats and finals? Which do you focus on more, heats events or finals events? So Juan, just so you're aware, our other guest, Anthony San Lorenzo, couldn't make it for a good reason. He's still training for this evening, but Isaac's my co-host. He does compete amateur as well. So probably they both can answer you, but we'll let Andrew go first.
Yeah, so I will answer from a general perspective on how me and Alex prepped, since we were both doing the show. But my problem was I actually wasn't taking the prep as seriously because I didn't find out till about 3 weeks before. So it's honestly why I think I got injured. It's not that I was overtrained or anything. I think I was actually undertrained for the specific events. And so I wasn't quite prepared for all of the events to be pushed that heavy, specifically the clean where my ACL popped. But for me specifically, I definitely focused on all of the things that I'm not good at. So the squat, the block press, the log, I had no discomfort with. We actually went down to Ode Haugen's a couple weeks out to do the inch dumbbell. So all the things that I wasn't good at, and then everything else was just moving events. So I never really trained the events specifically themselves. What I actually did was I just took a bunch of implements and just ran them back and forth and loaded them onto something, and then just chained in some sled drags and some farmer carries, because they were all general movements. You just had to be conditioned and move fast. So it wasn't like those had anything specific that was a technical skill that had to be very quick.
Yeah. So in terms of the overhead medley, did you actually train those implements in that order? It was, what was it? Log, block, then circus?
Yeah. So we did do one run through with the log and the block, but I think the block is actually, it's a pretty decent weight for a lot of these guys. So 250 block. Nadia Stowards can, she's actually just in the gym down the road, maybe 20 minutes away, but I feel like she's
really?
got it in her. Yeah. So she trains at Jacob Finnerty's gym, who is outside of his own injury, is pretty close to the world record block press on any given day. But yeah, I trained the block probably the most out of all of those because I knew I could get a rep or two with the dumbbell with my dumbbell split jerk that I've somehow learned to do. But the log was never really an issue. A 300 log is there on every day except in an extremely bad one.
Interesting. So Tyler Young, is this the Tyler Young? He says that car deadlift is also insanely heavy. Tyler, if you want to come on, please let us know. Isaac will shoot you over a link. Isaac, look up Tyler Young. I think it's Tyler Young Strongman. Let me see. Tyler Young Strongman on IG. Send him a link, please, if you wouldn't mind.
And this
Tyler,
comes from a guy that hit a 700-pound squat for a triple just to show that he could do it, even though Robert Oberst couldn't in the past.
Oh, no. Poor Obi. He gets so much heat. I was actually going to ask you, Andrew, about that squat because a lot of guys zeroed the squat, right? Like at World's Strongest Man, that type of setup is common with the giant globes on the end. But for middleweights, kind of how common is it? Why was it difficult? Were the pads uneven, or is it just difficult to stabilize?
Yeah, there's definitely a strategy to it, and I think it's not something many of us have ever done. So if you do not hit the pads correctly, you can get stapled and dumped forward. Now, the strong squatters are still going to be strong squatters, but you know, the weird piece that came into play was we all had our heights measured on a very flat surface, and then things changed day of, so we had to move it to a slightly different surface, and that kind of changed people's squat heights. So you know, a strong squatter is going to be a strong squatter, but that little bit of height difference can matter. So if you got someone ended up slightly above parallel, it was a whole lot easier than if you had someone that was like, oh, that's very solid IPF level of below parallel. But I mean, you know, like Nick Best measured every single person. So there was a very solid attempt to do the best they can to make it fair, but without like, I don't know, some sort of laser and increments that aren't like spread over an inch or two holes. I don't think there's a way to make it any better than it was.
Yeah, you bring up another really good point. What do you think about strongman events having judging done so manually? Like even at World's Strongest Man with the moving events, there was some discussion. I had a bunch of live streams covering World's Strongest Man. There was discussion about, you know, why don't we have some sort of laser? Like I'm just some guy from the block, and like even I was able to purchase for a small amount of money 2 little batons that measure how fast I run from point A to point B. So like, why are they still using stopwatches?
I mean, I think it's just cost, right? It's hard to ask every promoter to do such a thing, and especially if it's not being supported at like the national or international level. But I think it would make the biggest difference probably in the weight class athletes, because if you look at like heavyweight times, there's some pretty decent splits. Very rarely are you coming down to like tenths of seconds when you're talking about events. But man, with these foot races and the middleweights and the 175s, you can see, you know, 5 seconds can be 30 places at nationals when you're talking about a yoke run, or even like 3 seconds or 2 seconds. I think at the Arnold, the last Arnold they had in that farmer's carry was like 10 places.
Wow, that's crazy. And then the other thing I really noticed at Clash was people had a lot of trouble with that chain drag. What's so hard about, and that was part of a medley as well, was it not?
So it was sandbag into chain drag. Yeah. I don't know. It was fine.
Fine for you?
Yeah. It's probably like one of my better events is like a reverse drag. And I was talking with Tommy Sharp afterwards, and he was trying to figure out how my time was slower than his. He's like, you're just ridiculously fast on the chain. And man, the chain's kind of interesting. It's really like, if you have the grip, you're holding onto it. It's about getting it up off the ground and just moving the feet fast and getting comfortable leaning back and driving those legs. So I don't think I'm a good truck puller, but reverse drag on the chain, pretty good. And actually that's the same event, like the kind of sandbag, Husafell Stone keg that I won at OSG in 2019, just beating Isaac Mays by like 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah, Isaac did really well at the Clash as well. It was awesome watching him compete. He's also very fast.
Yeah, it was funny. Me and Alex Brownlee were talking about who we thought were going to take the whole thing. And we're going through heats, and we're like, oh, we think this person's the favorite. This person's the favorite. And then we get to the heat that Isaac's in, and we name everybody in the heat. And then we kind of like spaced on Isaac being there. And we're like, all right, redo. Isaac's taking the whole thing. Very likely that he could win the entire contest. So he is savage, man. Him and Mel, like the true power couple, right? Literally.
Yeah. I've been trying to get them on my channel together too, because she said, what was it? It was a Canadian record at least, right? And then didn't it become more than that on the overhead?
I know she got the Canadian record on the axle. I can't remember if she got the world record on the axle.
I think she did, right? Because I think Corey Butler said it, and then she beat Corey Butler. Yeah.
So multiple world records and national records in the same weekend. So I don't know. That's impressive.
It's amazing. It's amazing where you hear, a promoter, or I guess you would call Anthony a promoter in that sense, right? You hear him say, "I'm going to make all these opportunities for records," and you think like, the sport has been going on for so long, like you can't expect records to be broken every time, and then they are. It's like the standard is really going up and up and up. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the first nationals I did in Vegas, granted I was a 200, but still a middleweight. The log was 275, and I think 5 or 6 reps won that. And then this past year, what was it, 295 at nationals? Kind of still the same thing, 5 or 6 reps won it. But it's just like the bar is being raised and that line is being moved. I mean, before if you pulled 700 on a deadlift, you were a pro, and now this like you got guys like Furman and Sean like that are around 800-pound deadlifts. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, Sean was special with that car deadlift. He was just doing stuff nobody else was doing. It was unbelievable. He actually, I was trying to get him on for this evening. It just didn't work out scheduling wise, but we may have him on a future episode. By the way, it looks like, Isaac, that I reached out to Tyler. You probably did too. I think he's going to try to join in a few minutes, so he might get on screen with us, Andrew, if you don't mind.
Oh, that would be awesome. He's a great dude. I love him to death.
Yeah, awesome. So we get another great question from Juan Daniel in the comments area. I think Mark walks around with resting abs. Do you think you'll get stronger if you gain more weight and lose the abs? Mark Henry telling Half Thor years ago to lose the abs comes to mind.
Yeah, I do remember him saying that at the Arnold, like, this is Strongman, you don't need to have abs. No, for sure. This is actually one of my big struggles. I mean, I'm 6'4". Like I'm one of the tallest guys in the class. I know that I'd probably be better if I weighed 300 pounds, but for some medical conditions that make it hard for me to eat. And then, time wise, I do struggle to put on weight. And so I think the heaviest I've been is 270. But it's like just taking every bit of effort I can to drink down that food because it's mostly liquid at that point. No vegetables. I know, not taking my own advice there, just getting everything out that doesn't have calories in it and shoving it down. So yeah, I think, the goal is definitely gain as much weight over time. But it goes back and forth depending on work and how things are going.
How far off the maximum for the weight class are you currently?
So I would say most of the guys probably walk around anywhere 250, 260 as 231 athletes. And I did not have to weight cut at all. I was walking around 235. So. Wow.
Yeah. Anthony San Lorenzo cuts for sure. Cause he and I got talking about our Italian heritage and how we like to eat. And he said he does have to cut.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Mike Gonzalez, who he's really a 200-pound athlete. So he was the lightest guy. And I think I was the next lightest. I'm trying to remember. Tommy Sharp's a pretty light guy. He walks around 240 relative to the class. But Reed Tompkins as well. Another extremely tall athlete, but he walks around 240 as well.
Do you have a certain competitor that you really enjoyed competing with the most, and just generally, not just in that show and multiple shows, you kind of like look forward to meeting up with that guy and competing, whether it's because you're more friendly with him or because he kind of brings the best out of you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's an individual person. I guess I've kind of realized that maybe I have a height bias. So it's like I can relate to all the guys, but actually Reed, he is an amazing guy. He's just, the epitome of sportsmanship. He's super kind. And he cracks me up with his like mid-lifting commentary, making a joke about himself and just keeps going. So, even though he tore his biceps on the stone, he's just still head is held high. He's like, I know what to do. I've done this before. I got it.
Yeah, and Reed was in your group in the heats, right? So I believe you tied in points. So unlike World's Strongest Man, it's just you both go through. There isn't any special rules there?
Yeah. I mean, I would have loved to stone off. I have with every bit of confidence that I could have taken everybody else in the group. I don't know. Maybe I'm not trying to call Jordan Donaldson out, but that would have been a good one. But, I don't ever plan on losing stones if I can help it. I don't know that I'm the best stone loader in our weight class. I mean, Isaac Mays and Nick Campbell are certainly monsters, but I have every bit of intent to give them a run for their money anytime the stones are there, especially this series.
Yeah. How did you first get kind of introduced to the Atlas Stone, and how did you get good at it?
I mean, I think everybody kind of gets introduced to it just watching ESPN in the middle of the night or on Christmas with World's Strongest Man. I mean, that's where my interest came from. But I didn't have stones because I was training in my garage for a long time when I was in med school. Like the closest gym that was a Strongman gym was about 3 hours away from me. That's at like Growler's gym over there near the Atlanta area. And so I never really had stones. And so the next closest thing I had up until my first contest was a sandbag. And so I think it still carries over a lot just to do sandbag loads and then getting used to the stone itself after that. So, you know, I still have the stone molds in my garage from all the stones I've made. But I guess at some point I just realized height is really good for stones and just kept going with it.
Awesome. Are you training on your own out of your garage at all these days or strictly out of a gym?
No, now most of the days, my garage training is actually for other physicians that I'm teaching how to lift. Then I'm going over to Empire Barbell in Redlands, California. So it's about 3 miles from my house and training over there with Alex Bromley and Eric King.
That's really interesting. So how did this program of training other physicians come to be? That sounds very interesting and very unique to you.
Yeah, so I actually chose my program, again, because of the lifestyle medicine thing. And the institution that I'm at in Loma Linda is big on nutrition. And that was the piece that I always was missing. I knew I could handle the exercise piece and the exercise in medicine. So I wanted to come here for learning. And then it just kind of fell into my lap. It's like, all right, you're the exercise person. We need someone to write this curriculum. You seem to know what you do, what you're doing, and you compete at this level. Actually, I was at Clash on the Coast when 2 of the attending physicians that I work under, they just messaged me like, hey, we need someone to teach us. So I've done several classes and not really seminars, but presentations at conferences to basically just say, all right, these are the 6 compound movements that you want to do to meet the physical activity guidelines. And so now I'm just kind of teaching that more and more to other physicians and training them just on their resistance training.
That's really interesting. You mentioned Loma Linda. That's a city, right? But it's also the name of a health food brand that's been around for about 30 years. I used to run a health food store, so I remember Loma Linda.
Yeah, so Loma Linda, California is one of the 5 blue zones in the world where people live the longest. So it's like, that's why they have a lot of the nutrition and lifestyle research here. And it's a good place for me to come learn about things.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was asking you about your gym because actually Johnny Waz, who was in your group, is probably 35 minutes from here, and he told me come by anytime. So I may just try out my first Strongman gym. What do you think? Should I go train with him?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, he's been around for a long time. I don't remember how many Arnolds in a row he's been to, probably like 12 or more Arnolds. But that was his car. So I don't know if I can tell you to go to Johnny's gym because that car is there.
Well, was it really?
Yeah. So, but no, he's a great guy. He does a lot for the sport, and he's absolutely a character and makes the contest a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was just looking at his IG profile, and then I just DM'd him. I reached out. I said, hey, I see you're in New Jersey. Whereabouts are you? And it turns out, yeah, we're like 35, 40 minutes apart. And he told me, come by, train anytime, buddy. So, yeah, I might just take him up on that. That should be fun.
Yeah, him and Camby, I think, just got back from that Russian contest that they were doing.
Yeah, Nick doesn't take any breaks, huh? He wins Clash, and he just goes and dominates everywhere, huh? It's unbelievable. He's really on a roll these days. I think, would he come 3rd in this this newest contest?
Yeah, it looked like 3rd.
Yeah, unbelievable. Isaac, I've been doing a lot of talking. Jump in, buddy. Don't let me do all the talking.
No, I'm having a blast. Well, my Wi-Fi still kind of freezes every once in a while. But I was going to say, with all the lifestyle training with the physicians, do you do any like stone lifting with them, or are you just doing compound movements and stuff like that?
So right now I focus on the compound movements mostly because I feel that's the biggest bang for their buck in terms of teaching them so they can teach someone else. At the moment anyone is interested, we will throw some Strongman stuff in there. I do like, people tend to shy away from the stones a lot the moment they see my arms and see if there's any scrapes or anything like that. But we'll throw in farmer carries, sled drags. Sometimes I can get people to do yoke carries, but mostly it's like farmers, sled drags, sandbags, that sort of things. Everybody wants to flip a tire too. So we actually, our new intern class is coming in July 1st, and I'll be training them, I think, on July 16th. So I'm just going to trick them into thinking that this is what we do here. Like we just come lift together. And so then it's going to be a pattern, and they're just going to say, all right, Tuesday or Thursdays and Sundays, we're going to lift together and keep it being a thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I always ask this question to whenever we have strongmen or strong women on. What are your techniques for yoke? Like, how have you gotten good at yoke, and what are the various techniques that you try to do every time that help you be successful there?
Yeah. So for me, just general event training, I always think about it as a fast, heavy, far approach. So I'm like choosing a lower weight on the days that I'm training fast and just really focusing on moving those feet fast and trying to get faster with the yoke. I maybe even like set a distance and say, I'm going to do sets until I fall below this time. And then the heavy is exactly what you think. Just, getting used to a heavy yoke is a process. So if you're not used to 900 and going from 700 to 900, it's just your feet are going to feel glued and you can't move. So there does have to be some times. And I typically keep those much shorter than contest runs. But I think one of the big things is actually building some of that leg endurance. So you can keep the power going the whole time. And those are the far runs. So if we're doing like a 60-foot yoke run in competition, we will train 180, 200-foot yoke runs at somewhere between like 75% and 90%, depending on how heavy the contest is. So like maybe 650 yoke we would do for that distance. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just speed. I could talk about bracing techniques. I don't know where you want to go with that. But.
Yeah, we can go anywhere you want. I bracing techniques. I'm always interested in what do you do with your breathing?
Yeah, so actually, that first breath, like in my head, I'm like, I'm a push out on the post guy. That's how I feel like it's stable. So I can also push forward to keep it from swinging too much. But it's like athlete ready, set, and as soon as they say set, I'm taking my breath and I'm actually driving up in my feet so I can be going on the go. And I probably hold my breath, if it's a fast yoke, for about a third of the course. And so I can really, like, I'm valsalvaing while I'm picking up speed. And then I'll do that whole like fighter pilot type breath that we love to do in strongman, where it's like that sort of thing. Yeah, for the rest of the yoke.
Yeah, we get that kind of feedback a lot from strongmen and strong women. Just kind of holding your breath makes that sort of pressurized soda can type situation where you can just brace yourself a little bit better. And then with your hand positioning, I talked with Big Laws about this, and he said the same thing. Like, some people when they first start out tend to want to wrap their hands around. You don't do that. Like, you can't stabilize like that.
Yeah, I've tried the whole pull-in technique, and so I'm sure it's great for someone that doesn't have flexibility. But I mean, I think about it like, if you're squatting a bar and you can get really stacked and you got good flexibility to get close, that typically is better than having to be way out, because you can create more tension. Right.
And I want to say hi to World's Strongest Blacksmith, who just joined us. What's up, Tyler? Nice to see you again.
I think he was at Georgia's Strongest Man this past weekend too.
He was. You know Tyler Haynes, right?
Yeah, I think I saw him maybe his first open show, if I remember correctly.
I believe it was. Yep. Yeah, he did definitely improve this time around. Tyler's a good friend of the show as well. Awesome. So the other thing I was wondering, so Isaac and I like to talk kind of current events sometimes, well, a lot of times on these shows, and feel free to totally deflect and not talk about this, but I have a doctor and I have to ask. So okay. in the news today, Rob Kearney talked about coming down with testicular cancer, and I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about that? Just generally, what are your thoughts about that announcement, and what's the medical perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, Rob's the demographic, right? So like cancer, we typically think, people like 50, 60, 70s, maybe they smoke, maybe they drink, or think about lung cancer, stomach cancer, those things. But testicular cancer is one of those things that hits young guys. So if you're like, hey man, I feel something down there, don't be afraid to go get it checked out. So this is what gets guys in their late teens, early 20s. So I didn't actually know that about Rob, but I really feel for him. What I'll say to Rob is, how many tours did Lance win after he was only on one ball? So Rob, I expect some World's Strongest Man titles if you have to go down with the testicular cancer.
Yeah, and honestly, the reason why I thought of Rob is because we were talking yoke, and I consider Rob Kearney the prototypical yoke walker. Like, if I wanted to learn yoke, that's the guy I would go to. He's just incredible. So I kind of put that together with the news I heard today. And yeah, I think he's going to pull through. I had a similar situation, 2-3 years ago. So you being a doctor, you would know what this is. Most people don't, but I have Kaposi sarcoma. So I had a scab on my ankle that kept growing. I got it checked out. They said it's just a wart. They send it out to be checked, and it came back Kaposi. So I got an oncologist, and that one is slow growing. So they just freeze them off if I find another one. But that's the whole key, right? Early detection, get checked out. A lot of guys are meatheads. Don't be that way. Go get checked out. And if you can catch these things early, a lot of them are treatable. Yeah.
And this is, like, I think a topic I would like to go into, and I will dance delicately around the rules.
Feel free.
There are some things that a lot of guys are doing in strongman. And there is well-documented stigma in the literature that medical professionals, including physicians, have a bias against things that people do to make them stronger. And so this leads to what? Like, people don't want to go to the doctor to get checked out. And they're like, oh, my doctor doesn't know anything about the things that I'm doing to make myself better at the sport. So what happens is, like, these guys get side effects from the things they're doing, and their blood pressure goes unchecked, their kidneys go unchecked, their liver goes unchecked. When in reality, like every other type of substance that I see in my practice, we take care of those people and do all the things. Like, if you're a heroin user, I make sure you have clean needles and don't have other types of infections, all of those types of things to reduce the harm of what you're doing to your body. So, you know, if you don't have some physician, like a primary care physician in your life that can help you monitor side effects of things you may be doing, go find one, because we are supposed to take care of your health regardless of what you're doing. And I just, you know, I think we all know someone that has passed like far too young, and probably could have been caught if they had good medical care.
Yeah, I really do appreciate that message from somebody, you know, as skilled and experienced as you are. So I think that's a really valuable piece of information for the audience. Tyler's here, by the way, so let's let him in. Tyler Young. What's up, Tyler? How are you?
What's happening, fellas? How y'all doing tonight?
Thanks for jumping on. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Andrew said he was going to beat me up if I didn't let you on. So said he was going to drop a yoke on me.
Well, he's too quick, so you can't get away from him.
So, Tyler, correct me if I don't remember this correctly, but you made it as a finalist on fan voting, right?
That is correct. My mom must really love me, because she must have voted all the times that she could. Slipped me right in there. So
I think it was a lot more than just her, buddy. I think it was a lot more than just her.
Yeah. So yeah, but I walked into the finals room, and Dr. Mock may remember this. I walked in, and like that's when it finally had been unveiled that I'd like won the fan vote, and I was like, buckle in. I was like, y'all got to run around and be fast for the last couple of days. I said, I finally get to stand still and pick things up now. And so yeah, I had advice of Dr. Mock. I had much better events in the finals than I did in the heats.
So was that fan vote something that Anthony had planned all along, or was it impromptu?
No, I knew a couple months ahead of time that he was planning on doing it. I don't know that he's going to do it next year. He hasn't said one way or another. But yeah, I knew pretty well going into it. Hopefully I wasn't going to have to rely on it, but you know, things happen.
No, that's awesome. Carolyn Loomis has joined us in the audience, and she says, class on the coast was the best. RIP World's Strongest Man. No fan stream or live stream. Anthony did it right, I gotta say. Like, I understand the whole TV production. Well, I don't understand TV production at all, but I understand the idea of wanting to get, you know, commercial sponsors on a TV broadcast and all that. But Strongman has really been growing a lot in the last few years, and there's a lot of demand on live stream. Big Laz was, we were talking earlier today, and he told me he had 62,000 viewers on his last live stream. So, you know, there's a lot of demand that I think if they charge a nominal pay-per-view, they can do it. And Anthony didn't even charge anything above the Core Sports yearly subscription or whatever. So kudos to him, man. He did an awesome show all the way around. No extra fees, had record breakers, had the best middleweights. It just was freaking awesome all around.
Yep. And then we'll still be on ESPN July 4th. So, you know, get your Nathan's hot dog and come join us.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't eat a Nathan's hot dog. Dr. Mock will tell me that's bad for my nutrition.
There's no such thing as bad food, only less health promoting food. That's what I'll tell you.
Ooh, I like
There
that.
you go. There you go. I'll cover my Nathan's hot dog in a handful of blueberries. How's that?
Exactly. Perfect.
Nice. So, Tyler, what was your favorite event in the finals?
My favorite event was probably the car deadlift. I don't know. I just got in a really good position, was able to, get after it. So that's what I was working the most.
We were talking about how that was tough for a lot of guys, except for like maybe you and Sean, but everybody else had some trouble with that.
Well,
how did you do so well?
Wasn't super heavy. The frame was pretty unique. Most of the ones, if you hit them real hard, they'll give you a little bit of flex, but that one didn't have any flex at all. It felt like it was, ratchet strapped to the ground. So it was just a real gradual push. You just had to push through it. And as silly as it sounds, they got easier as they went once you kind of figured out how to work the frame and what position you needed to be in. And it just kind of got easier as it went. So
awesome. So World's Strongest Blacksmith says, I wish I could drop down to 105. I'm sitting at 125 right now. Yeah, you could compete with these awesome strongmen.
Everybody else does. So
it's true. We were talking about that earlier. Andrew and maybe he said who else? Tommy Sharp maybe are pretty close to the weight, but everybody else is kind of cutting.
Yeah, I walk at about 2:30. So I just didn't eat breakfast that morning, went and weighed in. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I mean, the biggest question on my mind is, was the food provided at Clash on the Coast vegan burgers like World's Strongest?
I don't know about Dr. Mock, but did you eat that ribeye at the hotel?
I did not.
Man,
you
missed out. They had this ribeye you just charged to your room, and it was just like the size of your head. Like, it was gigantic. Came with Brussels sprouts. It was good. It was real good.
So the opposite of vegan burgers.
Yeah, I ate one of those like every day, and some days I ate two. I'm not even gonna lie. So
yeah, I mean, that really is like the big thing about Clash is, we've gone to nationals in St. Louis, Missouri, and like Montgomery, Alabama. Vegas was interesting, right? That was a nice place to actually go on vacation. But it's like we spend all of our time. A lot of us are taking vacation to go to these competitions, and like this is like might be our family vacation. So this is one of the first times it was like a real like, hey, this is somewhere my family might actually want to go, and I might actually be able to relax. So I think that was really what slammed home Clash for me, is that it was at a good spot. We were all in the same place. We got to hang around with each other afterward. And, while getting to compete at the top level.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day too. At least it looked like it from the stream. So, Tyler, we were talking about the overhead medley with Dr. Mock earlier. How was that for you? Like, so it was a 3-part medley, right? Which, what did you think?
I see him shaking his head. So where my heat ended up being dissolved, I got moved into a different heat. So I got to go last. And up until that point, I think only one person had made it to the inch dumbbell, and they had only gotten a rep. So I just had to, kind of not mess up. So I just kind of walked. I think that's why he was grinning and shaking his head. Because as far as the press medley goes, I mean, you have other heats that had like, I don't know, whatever heat Bromley was in. I know a couple of them got like 5 and 6 and 7 reps, which I fully intended to be there 4, 6, and 7 if I had to be. But I was super thankful I only had to do 2.
Yeah, stark comparison to my group, which nobody made it past the block. It was our last event, but none of us hit the block. I think me and Donaldson and probably the closest to getting it locked out, and would have gotten a couple reps on the dumbbells, I think, easily. But the block definitely was a big roadblock for our group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was watching, as a fan, and so I root hard for Anthony San Lorenzo. He's a friend of the show, and so I was watching, and I'm like, he locked out that block. I'm yelling at the screen. He locked it out. So I message him right away. I'm like, dude, you locked that out. He said, yeah, I put in a, what do you say? Like I argued about it and they said, okay. And I'm like, yeah, they said, okay. But like the dumbbell's your best part of that medley and you didn't get to do it. Like this is BS. So I don't know what you guys thought watching it in person.
I mean, the block just took me. I mean, we had to do it first. So I got pretty fortunate. So that was our first event. And I mean, it just took people's feelings is what it did. Like it, I mean, I watched some really good pressers get stumped by that block. I mean, it was just heavy. And and the platform that we were pressing on was a little spongy. Wasn't a big deal, depending on how you press the block anyway. I'm glad I don't split jerk it anymore because that would have been problematic. But I pretty well just like to row the block to my chest and then hinge under it and then strict press it. So I didn't really get much, bounce back from the platform. So
was it an actual Mauser block with the feet on it? Okay. So at least you can get your fingers under it a little bit.
Right.
Is that something that, I know that implement is hard for some people to get their hands on to practice with. How easy was it to prep with a block?
I bought one so I could train with it. Around where I'm at, we see blocks frequently, so it was an easy investment. But I spent a lot of money buying implements for Clash specifically so I could put my hands on it. So.
Yeah, I heard Mauser's not making them anymore, but Frank Gonzalez started making them.
Yep. Frank's a good dude, and he does some good work. I ended up getting my block from Clint Moneymaker down in North Carolina. Clint's a good buddy of mine, does great work. I love Frank, and I love Frank's work too. I just happen to go with Clint for the block. So, yeah.
Yeah, Clint's an awesome dude. He's on a lot of the Facebook groups that I'm a member of. I don't know if you know Costin Sutton. He's a good dude from North Carolina too. Yeah, awesome. So we were talking squats before, Tyler. What'd you think of the squats? So again, World's Strongest Man, it's common to have it set up that way, but a lot of guys struggled with squats. Is it a balance and stability thing? Were the pads uneven? What made it so hard?
That was a lot of it, I think. I don't think that people were prepared to squat with a fixed implement. And I think that you saw it in a lot of people's training. If they trained to dive bomb it, I knew they weren't going to do well because that fixed implement was just going to staple them. So my first rep was all about feeling out how I needed to squat. So I almost treated every rep like a box squat. You'll see, if you see any pictures or videos, my feet are super, super wide. I open at the knees first, and then I sit back. And once I found the pads and I knew what position I needed to keep my torso in, it was smooth sailing. But kind of like with the car deadlift, once you get past the first one, it gets easier to put a sequence of reps together.
Yeah, because I was watching Anthony do it, and he kind of bounced a little bit and then powered through 2 reps anyway. That was the sight to behold. That guy did not stop. Isaac, you want to jump in?
No, I'm actually having a blast just listening. I think you're running this well right now. Yeah, I was hoping that we could maybe get Bobby on as well because, but he's just coming back from World Strongest Man. I was messaging with him a little bit, and he got hurt there. But what do you think of the new log record? Tyler, you want to take a shot at it anytime soon, or the American record?
The American record, I'm probably quite a few years removed from that. However, along with the Super Series qualifier, Anthony is holding a world record log record breakers show at the Waco Super Series show. So I think it's going to be me, Camby, DeMarinis, Anthony Deal, and I believe Isaac is coming down from that, and Jesse Nelson. He's just an insane presser. So it's a good group of guys. We all better bring a good log in it because Sean DeMarinis and Nick Camby are not coming to share a record with anybody. So,
yeah. When is that supposed to be?
September 4th. It's in Waco.
And that's Tommy Sharp's Super Series show, right? That he's on over there.
Yep.
And the record right now is what, 410?
Yeah, Rob Kearney's had it for 10 years.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool. So you say it's Tommy Sharp's show. It's really cool, how many athletes actually promote as well. Is that as common as it seems to me as a fan?
I think that, and not to speak for him or anything like that, but the main issue, in my opinion, in Strongman has kind of been people not really knowing what the athlete needs, taking care of the athletes. So he wanted to kind of put it in our hands because I'm promoting the National Super Series show as well in January. Because I think that he knew that they would be competent hands and we would look out for the athletes first and foremost. And again, not to speak for him, but I think that that's kind of, the direction that he wants to move in.
That's great. Yeah, it's anything we can do to grow the sport is definitely a positive move for sure. Did you guys catch any of World's Strongest Man? You have any opinions on what you may have seen or not seen but heard?
Yeah, I just followed the spreadsheets a little bit, but you know, I think it's awesome. Spoiler time. I don't know. It's awesome that Tom was able to take it. I think a lot of people were hoping Shaw could pull out number 5, but Tom just looked in pristine form, and you know that stone run was disgusting.
Yeah,
yeah. No spoilers. We've been all up and through the spreadsheets on my channel. Don't worry, thousands of people tuned in for that, which was I'm very, very thankful for, by the way. But no, yeah, it was crazy because Tom won the first 2 finals events, which would make you think it's out of reach. And then Shaw just made up points on the log and on the deadlift, and then was like, damn, he's only a point away. If he wins the stones, he's going to win this. And again, we haven't seen any footage, but I heard he bobbled one of the stones. So it would be interesting to see that in the U.S. in July. And unfortunately, the U.K. has to wait till December to see it.
And I think because Brian still got 3rd in the stones, I think, even with missing the one.
Yeah,
so he still didn't do poorly, but he was like 8 seconds behind Tom or something like that. It was something ridiculous where it's like, even if he would have made it in all the way through, he probably wouldn't have caught Tom. It would have been close, but I don't think he could have caught him.
Yeah, Maxime slipped in between them there into 2nd place. He really showed a lot. Max, when I had him on my channel, told me, you know, I've been working stones like since last World's Strongest Man. People are going to be surprised, and he really brought it with stones for sure.
Max is turning into a great athlete, that's for sure.
A man after your own heart, Andrew, huh? The awesome stone lifter.
Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully we'll have a good series coming up in the 231s, and I'll be back to full health, and we can see to really test this theory about the stones and me and where I fall with them.
Yeah, how you feeling these days? How's the recovery coming?
It's good. I mean, it's a day at a time. You know, I think just trying to make the most of it and trying to share my story so people understand what the process is like going through an injury. And I mean, because the principles are the same, regardless of if it's a big injury or something you've been dealing with for a long time, or just a tiny little, you know, tweak or something like that. You just kind of systematically change the range you're working through, the load you're working through, how much volume you're doing, and then the exercises you're doing. And you adjust it slowly over time. And that's how you manage pretty much any injury, from, you know, just a general training perspective to an actual medical perspective.
Yeah, that's
a little bit of a oversimplification.
It's right. I mean, it is an oversimplification, but it can be quite simple.
But it is
how
true.
you do things.
Well, speaking of stone series, there's one in the finals at OSG, Dr. Mock.
Yeah, I think I officially had to commit to not doing nationals and OSG. So realistically, most people from an ACL can go back to competing around 9 months. 12 months will put me right at Clash for next year.
Okay.
6 months would have been pushing it. I mean, if I was an NFL player and had more time to rehab, and you know, I needed it for a paycheck, and the events were good for me at nationals, I think I would, and OSG, I think I would give it a shot. But I think I'm trying to play the long game and pretend like I'm wise and see if we can hold off on doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and OSG is coming up is it October or November? I forget.
November.
Oh, it's November 12th, right? That's the one. Yeah, November 12th is the day after my birthday. I forgot that's the one. Yep. OSG should be awesome. So OSG didn't happen last year, right? Because of the whole world situation. So they're back this year, and that should be really, really awesome to watch.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm excited about is Lane was at Clash helping out. I mean, to me, before Furman started doing everything he was doing with Clash, Lane was the game changer with OSG. And I really feel like that was one of the bigger contests where I felt like I was treated like an athlete first, and not just like a paycheck for people. And so, you know, he even brought his car up there and was planning to use it for the contest. But now the car walk in OSG is going to be there. So I think he was taking notes there, and I'm interested to see what he'll do for OSG now that Clash has happened.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I wonder if Isaac, remember Mammoth Strain Challenge? They had middleweights there too, didn't they? So those happen in January, guys. So you might want to look into that. David Waters puts that on, and that was a hell of a competition last time around. So that might interest you as well.
Yeah, that was a great show to watch as well, because we live streamed that with Garage Gym Media.
Yeah, they had some pros there. Bobby Thompson was there. Marcus Crowder was there. Travis was there. Stan Carradine. Who am I missing? I don't want to miss people. Sorry.
Wes Claiborne was there.
Wes was there.
Travis Fortmeyer was there.
Wes tried that sandbag record, which I was very adamant I felt was too heavy of a starting weight, and nobody listened to me. But
I believe Trey was there too, now that I think about it.
I think Trey showed up last minute to try that record.
Yeah.
And, you know, when Trey shows up, they let him do what he wants. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. But, yeah, lots of record breakers there, too. Jessica Fithen broke a record. Gabrielle Bergholzer broke a record. Corey Butler broke, I think, a strongman corp record, but not a world record in the axle. So it was pretty awesome show.
And Aaron Blackford, I believe was his name. He took my block press world record.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, at 198 or 200.
He collapsed. Didn't he collapse on his attempt?
Yeah, on his second.
Yeah.
He came back and hit it on his third.
Yeah, he's a strong dude. He's a strong dude. And then some more record breaker friends of the show, Steve Schmidt and Wyatt Dawson, did incredible at that show as well. They've both been on here, so great guys, really great guys. Yeah, sometimes you talk to like giant guys like Steve, and you don't expect him to be so kind. Like, you know, like, he's so nice.
I saw him at Mammoth, and he goes, "Come here, man, give me a hug. I haven't seen you in forever." And so we just, you know, hugged. He asked about my family and my son, and it was just like, man, I forgot how nice you were.
Yeah, he and I had like an hour and a half long conversation. He's just such a nice guy. He's actually the person who convinced me not to be hard on Thor because of the whole Eddie Thor thing. He's like, when I met Thor, he was the nicest guy in the world. We had a conversation. We talked shop. I'm like, all right, I'll reconsider. Steve Schmidt says that it must be so.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that was also before Thor had the entourage of 50 people following him everywhere, though. So I think the mob effect kind of had some impact on Thor's mentality.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the mob came out and he took that was the year he took his title, right? So I think every year after that, people have had a little bit bigger posse they've been bringing with them.
True. Yeah, that's true. What did you guys think of the city chosen for World's Strongest Man? It turned out to be ultra hot. Like, why don't they choose temperate areas to have these things? And this isn't the first time this has happened.
You mean like Juneau, Alaska or something? And
somewhere in between. It's not too cold and not too hot. It seems like Botswana, Sacramento. It's always somewhere super hot. Like, okay, they couldn't control the hurricane last year. I get that, but choose somewhere temperate.
I think they just like watching them suffer, to be honest. But honestly, if you look at where all of they've had the World's Strongest Man, I mean, it's all been places that they could, you know, go out and explore and have a vacation. Kind of what we were talking about with Clash, how much we enjoyed the beach and stuff like that. I mean, when I went to my third Worlds was in India. I mean, and there wasn't anything around in India. You know what I mean? I would have much rather been melting at a beach as opposed to melting in India. So I don't know.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, the setting was cool. Like, I didn't realize that Sacramento had that kind of old Western feel to it. But yeah, the setting was up with the trains was really actually very cool. But just to hear that it was 109 degrees one of those days, I'm like, why are you putting these guys through this?
But, you know, they've had it in like the UK and stuff in the past as well. And so it's been raining when people are trying to do events, and like, so they have had some of the other stuff, but I think lately it's been a lot more of the hotter locations that they've been picking.
Yeah, speaking of melting on the beach, Tyler, we were talking with Andrew earlier about the sand events at Clash. What are your feelings about how they went, the keg and the loading?
Well, honestly, I was super relieved that those ended up being on sand. And I may have spoken with Dr. Mock about this, but I can't remember. Very few people knew I had a fractured foot about 6 weeks before Clash. And I did keg throws like once, and I was like, this feels terrible. I'm not going to do these anymore. So I just didn't train them. And then we got to push off on the sand. I was like, well, this feels great. So it ended up saving my foot a lot of that pressure. Same with the loading medley. I wasn't able to do a whole lot of moving events or anything like that in prep, but being in the sand kind of relieved some of that pressure that was on the forefoot where it was fractured at. So
that's an interesting perspective. I never would have thought of that. If you have that type of injury, how you can kind of relieve the pressure under a softer surface.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Yeah, because I was just thinking it from a perspective of you don't have any leg drive or a lot less leg drive on a keg toss in sand, but that's an interesting perspective, though.
Well, I don't know if it's just the way I throw and the way I generate torque with my hips. I didn't really notice. I listened to Dr. Mock's part, and maybe my first steps were just so heavy, like digging into the sand, how I externally rotate to initiate that position. Maybe I just kind of skipped that set or skipped that step. I don't know. But I was able to generate some pretty good power. Surprisingly, in the sand, I'd only thrown kegs one time before, and I ended up not having to rethrow any of those. Went through all 8 of them, I believe. So I just, kind of got fortunate that it all fell together the way it did. So
extremely impressive run. Extremely impressive.
Thank you. I was just as surprised as y'all were, if it makes you feeling better.
And in terms of the loading medley, did the fire hydrant try to take a pound of flesh like it did to Dr. Mock?
No, but I made a super beginner move. So I started with the block. I loaded the block, and then I went down to load whatever the next implement was. Whenever I got to the tire, I loaded it. But there was like a little ditch where they had been rolling the implements off. So I had to put it on my head. So I pushed it up on the thing, and I got halfway back and the tire fell off. And instead of just grabbing the next thing and then getting it when I got back down there, like an idiot, I just ran down and reloaded the tire and then ran all the trip that I just backtracked and grabbed the next piece. So I ended up burning valuable time there. I got to the barrel as time expired. So I didn't really expect the medley to be a very good event for me, but it ended up going decent. So
did you feel like the platform was wide enough for the number of implements?
Yeah. I just didn't get up there enough.
Okay. Yeah, because from a fan's perspective, I always wonder, sometimes things fall off, and I'm like, are they making it wide enough, or are they trying to make it hard on them?
Well, it was also super, super tall. I think it was 54 inches or 52 inches or something like that. And then we had to contend with, when they would roll the implements off, it would push the sand away underneath the platform. And we did it, last. So there was a nice little ditch. And obviously I'm not the most vertically gifted person in the field. I can't be 6'4" like Dr. Mock. So, those were already a chore. But the tire was the only one that I kind of had a problem with, just because it got caught on my head the way it did. But
Tyler, I have to ask, what was the proposed strategy going into with the block and the other implements on the moving medley that was in high discussion prior to the competition for you?
Oh, I wasn't even going to try to touch the barrel. That training went awful. I was just going to try to get the floor done as fast as I could, and then flip it like a tire until I got to the platform, and then somehow try to get it to my shoulder. But I wasn't very optimistic about that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, are barrels generally a problematic implement? Because same thing happened at World's Strongest Man. I heard a lot of people much more knowledgeable than me saying, why the hell did they make them lift those giant barrels?
I mean, it's tough. It's definitely a wingspan thing to be able to grab it. So, me and Reed, I think, had huge advantages there. I don't remember if he could just grab it upright, but I could just slap my hand on the side and grab an edge. Whereas a lot of guys were having to precariously tilt it up onto a leg and then almost shoulder it to be able to move with it. So it's certainly, strongman's going to favor being, shorter and stockier sometimes, favor being taller sometimes. I will happily admit the entire time during the heats that it favored being taller and being able to move fast. So, but yeah, that thing was nasty, and a lot of guys got a lot of tweaks training it because it's a weird object and it slips.
Yeah, that was the worst part, is it being a half full of water. I could, relatively get a hold of it, but once I had to move, and it was like carrying a big shake weight. So,
what did it weigh? I forget.
I think it was supposed to weigh 200, but I'm not. It was around there.
Sounds right.
Now, 200 sounds really heavy, given that World's Strongest Man, I think, was 250, and they're a lot bigger than you guys.
It was really
like isn't that a crazy amount of weight, and not even taking into account the sloshing around?
Well, it's kind of interesting, and like you know, when you're talking about like deadlift, overhead press, and even farmers, I feel like there's a much bigger gap in the implement weights when you're comparing to even the amateur and the middleweight strongman. But when you're talking about implements like front carries, I mean, a 300-pound sandbag has been a middleweight sandbag at Worlds for the past couple of years. And then, you know, a lot of times you'll still see them only carrying like 300, 330. I think, shoot, what was it? America's Strongest Man. That was the first time they really pushed it higher and got closer to a 400 bag. So I think their anvil was 275. Ours was 250. So it's not really that far off when you're talking about the implements. And I think, honestly, and I say this with great confidence, a lot of the middleweights could probably, especially in that top 10 group, could hang with some of the pros in some of those loading medleys for sure, and would probably be dusting and hurting quite a few feelings.
Oh, 100%.
Overhead for sure, because I did hear that Travis Ortmeyer was training with Nick Camby on overhead after Clash to try to improve for World.
We're just going to leave Nick out of this. I did hear they actually had a Russian weightlifting coach for a little while, so releasing his secrets out there. So, you know, I think, you know, especially for the smaller guys, depending on your build, a jerk's going to be the way to go. And I'm, you know, happy to see more people having success with it.
Inversely, I wish we would squat the actual weight that they would squat at World's Strongest Man, and, you know, to see how we stack up. So,
how many reps did you hit with that weight, Tyler?
I hit 700 for a triple Friday with the axle walkout, because I wanted to see, after, you know, somebody zeroed, I wanted to see how many.
I already called them out. You don't have to worry.
So, yeah, I got 3.
Is this the point where we mention Oberst again?
Yeah.
Hey, look, I put this in several comments after I posted that video. I'm by no stretch like an Oberst hater or anything like that. I just hate that he's taken away from like this young crop of American athletes that are so talented. Jose Baez and Marcus Crowder and Gabe Pena and Wes Claiborne. I mentioned him earlier. Just, you know, killers in their own right, and, you know, they're getting overshadowed. So it's really frustrating being, you know, friends with all of these people and them getting, you know, passed over when he's just there. He's got a big
Jose Baez is a beast. Actually, when I interviewed Gabe Pena, I asked him, "Who's your favorite person you've ever competed with?" And he said Jose Baez. But yeah, I'm still confused as to how Gabe didn't get into World's Strongest Man. He basically said they're still concerned about his heart issue from last year, which he's always said he's been cleared of. So I really don't know what actually happened there. Do either of you, maybe Dr. Mock, have a medical perspective on what might have happened there?
I mean, not to go into his like medical problems, and I've not personally talked to him about it, but I mean, this is one of the things we were talking about heart conditions, or we were talking about testicular cancer before that gets young guys, but the things that get young athletes are heart conditions. So I think there is some merit to having some extra scrutiny and protecting guys a little bit harder. I don't know what he's had looked into, but I wish him the best and look forward to seeing what he's doing, because, man, he was looking like a monster in training.
Absolutely. Deadlift for sure. Like, he looked among the best deadlifters in the world. And I would just say, like, they ended up giving him like quite a battery of testing, like all the best cardiological testing that they could. Like, just do that a few days earlier, and if that's going to turn out positive, let him compete, you know? So it just seemed like it was done at the last second. That's kind of my take on it, but I wasn't there.
That I got as well as, you know, they flew him out there to be an alternate, and then Graham Hicks ended up pulling out. So they're like, hey, go get cleared. And it, you know, it just wasn't that easy. It couldn't happen that fast. It's kind of the way I interpreted it anyway, just speaking with one of his clients. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Irvin Toots, don't get me wrong. But, like, I had interviewed Gabe a few months earlier, and he thought he was the #1 alternate all along. And I was getting really amped up to watch him possibly compete, because you always expect at least one person's gonna pull out. So, but he seems in good spirits over it anyway. He'll be back. What'd you guys think was the biggest surprise in World's Strongest Man? There were a couple, or many, I should say.
I mean, I think at least the biggest elephant in the room is like Group 5 in the qualifiers. And I think Tyler and I were actually in a thread posting about it. And that was kind of one of the interesting comparisons between World's Strongest Man and Clash. And like thinking about that, well, like Tyler was voted in with the fan vote because he was in a disgusting group, but still, rank him against all the other guys in the top 10. And he's, you took 4th, right, Tyler?
5th.
So, I mean, like he's, he's crushing it. So it's like if you have guys, well, like Alexi, like missing out, but if you ranked the top 4 guys in that group and they're still within the top 10, it's like, or the qualifiers, they're just beating everybody else out. It's kind of interesting. And so thinking about how something like a fan vote or like saying like, this is the toughest group, let's take an extra person because some people got hurt, was an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, what do you think about having groups at all? Because, I mean, many other contests don't. What's Bahrain was just 15 guys or whatever, 13 guys, and they were ranked like 1 to 15. So, I mean, I guess World's Strongest Man wants to differentiate themselves and do something that's a bit more challenging. But what do you think about having groups at all? Should they?
I'm kind of conflicted. Here's how I would do it if I were running it. I would invite like 40 or 50 of the strongest guys. There wouldn't be any alternates. There wouldn't be anything. And they'd have 3 events each day or whatever. And every day you lose 10. Like, so the bottom 10 get eliminated and they don't go to day 2. And then the next day, the next 10 get eliminated and they don't go to day 3. And then whatever the final is, it'd have, 4 or 5 events and it's scored just like a regular strongman competition when you get to that last 10. And then you have your top 10 from there. That's how I would do it. But it'd be better for TV, but whatever.
Yeah. And I've never been to a World's Strongest Man personally, but I think the reason the groups worked so well and were nice to have at Clash on the Coast was because of how it was filmed. So we would hop from event to event to event and immediately go right into the next person doing the lift, which did require the groups, because if I was doing event 3 first, that's not fair to be ranked against the guy that was doing event 3 last in that sense. So I'm sure there's some filming involved with the groups. I don't know if having so many groups is the best way to go about that.
Interesting. Looks like we lost Tyler. I'll bring him back in. There he is. Pop him back in.
Sorry, fellas.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. We actually had some conversation going on in the comments. Have you guys seen this Sylvester Stallone fake weights controversy, and what do you think about that?
I mean, Stallone's doing something right. That's all I'll say. How is he? He's in his 60s now, 70s? How old is he now?
70s, I think.
Yeah, and
yeah, 70s, I think.
So
I haven't seen it, but Sylvester Stallone can do whatever he wants. So that's where I'm at with it.
So I'll ask the question a different way. Like, never mind Sylvester Stallone. Is it possible to get on all fours, hold 245s, and lift them up in the air while on your knees, out in front of you?
I mean, it's possible. But
I should really spend my time on all fours, so I'd have to think about this.
I saw Greg Doucette tried it on his YouTube channel. If you don't know him, he has a huge channel, and he couldn't do it, and he's an IFBB pro. So there you go.
So
maybe
what did he do
Sylvester's
exactly? He was on all fours.
Let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
Okay.
You guys, Isaac, why don't you talk about something else while I look for it, if you don't mind?
Sure. Well, actually, going back to World's Strongest Man, I think it's funny. I got to meet Oberst a couple weeks ago before World's Strongest Man. And it was actually really funny because the entire time we talked, all he talked about was how he was going to set the new log world record. And I remember mentioning to him, like, well, you have to make it to the finals to to set the world record. And he was like, oh yeah, it's, you know, it's whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he didn't make the finals. And I was like, well, kind of told you. Like, I don't know.
He did do better than I've ever seen him do, though. You got to give him some credit. I mean, he didn't make it to the finals, but he won that that loading medley at the beginning, so he did do better. And Tyler, I'm like you. I'm no Oberst hater either. I'm just just talking facts.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, end of the day, he's still a world-class athlete.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
So there's nothing you can fault the guy for.
All right, let's see. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
All right, let's play it. Oh, so that's Greg Doucette trying to mimic him. There you go. Here's Stallone. So basically, he does this and stands up with him.
Oh, yeah. It can't be that hard.
Well, he's doing them with 25s. So wait, let's see. Here you go. So what do you think? Fake weights or real weights?
I don't know. I need to see this now, Tyler.
I mean, I am out here in the garage. I could probably knock one out. Nah, I think it's real.
He's a strong guy.
Man, why? I mean, here's what I'm looking at. I mean, look at the settings. Like, why would you take fake 45-pound plates into a gym? You know, like I think it's real. I don't know. I'm gonna give you a benefit of that.
How many generations has that guy shaped and got people to lift? I think Tyler said, I don't really care what he does at this point as long as he's still encouraging people to lift.
Like, I mean, he's also worked out at a very, very high level for like 50 years now. So, I mean, I don't think it'd be unrealistic to think that, you know, somebody could have that kind of kinesthetic awareness. So,
yeah, for sure. Juan Daniels in the comments, he wants me to sign up for a Strongman comp. So he says, let's see, here's a great idea for your channel. Sign up for a Strongman comp, do a full prep, take us through it, and record the full comp. You obviously have the strongest friends around. I do. I have these gentlemen. I have Travis Ortmeyer. I got Big Laws. I do have the strongest friends around. I also have kids that I'm looking after, but maybe we'll make that happen one of these days. Isaac is like across the other side of the country, so that's what makes it hard to train with him. But yeah, we'll try to make it happen. We actually got Johnny Waz close by. You know what? Maybe I'll try it.
Yep, just do it. If you always wait to be ready, you never will. So just jump in.
Nah, I always tell stories. I've never competed, but I like doing that kind of stuff. When I was a little kid, I had my little like 50-pound bench press set. But like I said, forget that. I like grabbing my dad's keys, putting the car in neutral, and pushing it up and down the driveway. That was fun for me, you know.
Yeah.
I was an only child, so I had to be creative with what I did for fun, and that's what I did. And growing up, same thing. Like we had to build a retaining wall. I'm like, well, I got a bunch of stones over there. I could use a wheelbarrow to get them over here, or I could carry them, which is way more fun. So that's, you know, I've always kind of had the bug. I've just never competed.
Now you can carry them, load them into the wheelbarrow, and then push the wheelbarrow back.
There you go. All right, I'll call myself Bruce Wilhelm. I can beat him now. Did you guys watch Worlds growing up, and did you have a favorite?
Oh, for sure, Marius. I mean, I think he's the reason a lot of us got in the sport. So,
how about you?
You're not going to hear a different answer from me.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just seeing like him as an explosive athlete, and then even though his physique is insane, and his speed and his power is insane, more relatable because he's not, you know, he's what, 6'3", compared to like Shaw and Thor, 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah, super relatable.
Yeah. But you know, having someone that's like not just this complete freak of nature that was born to do this. I mean, he certainly was with winning 5 titles, but definitely Marius.
Interesting that you both picked the same competitor. My favorite was always Magnus Samuelsson, but yeah, I watched a lot of Marius as well growing up. Isaac, who was your favorite?
Honestly, I didn't really watch a ton of Strongman growing up until right around like Lawrence Shawley was getting into it. So I started watching him a bit, and then went back and watched all Big Z's stuff. And so I was definitely a Big Z fan from his earliest stuff. I was never a huge fan of Marius. I mean, he was great. He's one of the best. I don't know. I was like Big Z better. I was like, Brian Shaw. And then as I watched all the old stuff, then, Kazmaier, stuff like that. Not to start a debate or anything, but
how would Kaz do against today's competitors? There's a debate for you.
Which Kaz? When he was winning or after he had the little, 6-year hiatus or whatever it was?
Oh, when they stopped inviting him back because they knew he was winning too much? No, when he was winning.
I think the game enough that it wouldn't matter. I think that he would fall. I mean, it would obviously take him a few years to, be where he needed to be. Like if we were to have prime Kaz just, teleport into World's Strongest Man, it'd take him a year or two to catch up. But no, he'd fall right in, and I think he'd pick right up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like equilibrating for today's nutrition and training methods and whatnot, Kaz for me is number 3 all time. It's Z, Brian Shaw, and Kaz.
I'd probably agree with that. I think Kaz was just, I mean, obviously there were a lot of other good strongmen at the time as well, but like Kaz was kind of in a different league, I think. And maybe, maybe he had a cocaine addiction or something that helped get him to that level, but I don't know. Well, I'm not sure on that.
I don't know. I don't know if I put him at 3rd. That's up there. It's close. I got Mark Henry's in my top 3 though. For
Mark Henry, that's right. I mean, you guys probably from what you've said, you probably both put Marius above him, but Mark Henry, no.
I mean, Marius is my favorite to watch, but as far as the strongest people to ever compete, no. I think that Zydrunas holds that title comfortably, and then I'd probably put Mark Henry at 2nd. I don't know who I'd put 3rd, but it probably wouldn't be Kaz.
World's Strongest Blacksmith says Kaz will always be number 1 all time. Mark Henry was a bit of a surprise because when he competed at that it was the first Arnold's, right? And I knew him later as a professional wrestler. And, I've watched wrestling since I was a kid. So, you grow up, you start to learn about it's physically taxing and demanding, but it is also the wins are choreographed, right? So like I thought World's Strongest Man is his gimmick. Like he's not actually the World's Strongest Man. Then you hear, wait a minute, he won Arnold's. I guess he is the World's Strongest Man. And, the story behind the scenes, if you haven't heard it, goes that Vince McMahon told him, like, you have to go there and win to preserve the gimmick or you're fired. So he had some extra motivation.
Yeah. Well, he's also one of only like 3 or 5 people to ever clean and press the inch dumbbell with one hand. He didn't use the other hand to clean it up.
He did that. It was like they were having dinner or something. It wasn't even in the gym, right? Like he just walked in and just amazed everybody.
Yeah.
Tyler,
so held titles in weightlifting, powerlifting, and then strongman. Yeah. Give me him top 2 all day. So.
Tyler, were you ever actually able to pick the inch with one hand?
No, I got it about to my knees. That's about as far as these little Burger King hands will get for now, but I'm working on it.
I mean, that's still impressive. We actually went down to Ode's place, and we were, of course, you have to try it. Like if you're messing around with an inch dumbbell, you have to try and pick it with one hand. I mean, you're sitting next to the guy that's picked it, like 60-something times in 10 minutes. And he's training someone over on bench press, and he just walks over and just slaps his hand on it, picks it up, and we're just like, all right, we're done. we're going home.
So I'm about 45 minutes south of where Furman is stationed right now in Kentucky. So I drove up to train with him, and the first time that I cleaned and pressed it, I was like, oh, wow, this is a lot different. So I ordered one like that day. I was like, I have to have one of these to train on. So as soon as it came in, like it was just grip central out here trying to get my hands ready for it, but they're not there yet.
And then the inch is what, a 2.5 or a 2 3/4?
I think it's 2 3/8. Not split hairs or anything. But it's just problematic because it's all fixed. Like if you don't have your hand in just the right position, it'll roll right out and just humble you.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I've tried it with a fat grip, which has a lot more grip to it than than an inch, and it's still hard. Yeah. I've just been I said, let me just try this with a regular dumbbell, get as strong as I can, and then throw a fat grip on it and make it harder. And I'm not even up to 172 on a regular dumbbell yet, so we'll keep working. Yeah, but Dr. Mock, were you able to get it up?
No, I was able to pick it with one hand. The interesting thing about that dumbbell is we were thinking it was going to feel much closer to the Mike Bartos like big globe dumbbell, but it's actually completely different. Both Bromley and I felt like it was really stacked on the shoulder, and that like you could really get a lot of force into there. But kind of what Tyler was saying is if your hand was off, it felt pretty unstable up top, and it felt like it was ready to roll. So that was probably the hardest part, was like at lockout, it feeling like slightly less unstable. But at the shoulder, I felt like it was locked in there. It felt pretty good.
Yeah, if you're not a very linear presser with that, it'll wreck your whole world. And it took like a lot of trial and error of me, jumping and punching into the right position and not eating it, because it would come back and hit me in the head if I wasn't, actively trying to get out of the way. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting piece to press that I think a lot of people kind of underestimated. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you guys seen that video of Brian Shaw doing an incline shoulder press with 2 Thomas inches? That was amazing.
Fellas, I'm gonna have to hop off here in about 2 or 3 minutes. Gonna put this little boy to bed.
Yeah, man, we totally understand, and it was awesome having you on. Thanks for jumping on.
Oh, no, I appreciate you shooting me the invite. I was just looking for something to watch on the way home from work, so kind of worked out.
Yeah, man, we see some incredible people jump on the comments. We have to invite them. That's just how it works.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
that. Man. Yeah, man.
Well, and we do this every Monday, same time. So we alternate. John's channel takes it one week, and then my channel takes it the other week. So we go back and forth. So if you're ever bored on a Monday night, definitely look us up.
All right, sounds good.
Hunger Smash and my blog.
Do you guys have any other questions for me before I roll out?
Tyler, when's your show?
My show's January 15th.
Okay. And what city?
Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah, you gonna come out?
I'm trying to figure out if we'll be able to fly out to some of them. I still won't be competing in any of them, although I think it would be nice. But looking forward to some other things that are coming down the pipeline that some of us know about.
Wink, wink.
Yep. We'll just have to see where it all goes.
All right, brother.
Thanks, Tyler.
Y'all have a good night.
Tyler, real quick, any more information you want to give about that show to get athletes to sign up, or anything you want to promote before you run?
I think that we got a lot of our initial signups knocked out. I think now we'll just catch a lot of the people that don't qualify at Waco or Denver. Right now we're sitting at about 27 signups, which is a lot, considering it's all the way out in January. And we've got, some big people signed up: Luke Meredith, Gary Petrovsky, Anthony Deal, Justin Lloyd. I mean, strong cats. So yeah, I'm really excited. I have verbal commitments from some very, very strong deadlifters that we may have seen this last week, wink, wink, that are hopefully going to come down and put on a show for us, along with 2 deadlifters that are already signed up, and Sean Schumacher and Anthony Pernice, that are going to pull just insane numbers. Have a couple ladies that are going to come down and pull some crazy numbers. Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a good time, like a good time.
Awesome, buddy. Anything I can do to help spread the word for you, you just let me know. Happy to do it.
Hey, we'll do. Hey, you guys have a good night. Appreciate you.
You too, man. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I see you, Tyler.
So, Isaac, what else do we have for Dr. Mock? I know we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon.
Shoot, I don't know. Well, I mean, we could go back to more of the medical stuff. That's I've seen a bunch of ACL, tear and recoveries and all that sort of stuff. I don't know what all. Well, actually, because you said that they didn't trim the meniscus in your knee, they just repaired the ACL.
Yeah. So I'd actually had a meniscus tear back in 2008 or so. So I didn't have a whole lot on the side that I tore. So they trimmed it up, but they didn't repair it. And if they repair it, then they lock you with your knee straight for like 6 weeks, with not much weight bearing at all. So in some ways, like, you want them to repair it, right? Because you got a little bit more cushion hanging around for longevity. but I was really wanting to get back to it. So, you know, now like 2 weeks out, I could start like adding some sort of load to it with doing range of motion squats. And now, you know, looking forward to next week, actually being able to move with some weight, which is just more than my body weight. So
is the surgeon still overseeing your rehab, or because I mean, because I know you're an MD, but it's not necessarily your specialty. So do they allow you to run your own rehab, or do they still give you guidelines?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a tough spot. He does give me guidelines, and I kind of have pushed him a little bit because, you know, I think unless you've got someone at a big institution that's worked with a lot of like essentially football players or stuff like that, they're not used to the kind of forces that we put on our bones. This is like my medical claim to fame right now, is that he told me after the surgery, he's like, yeah, we've almost exclusively gone to plastic screws when we're doing these ACL reconstructions, but we actually had to put metal ones in there because I was terrified it was going to break going into your bones because they're so hard from all the weights you lift. So, I mean, there's definitely some unique aspects about what we do and what we want to get back to. You know, we're not trying to get back to like walking or like being able to play with our kids. We're trying to get back to like really pushing the boundaries and competing at a world-class level. So I'm working within his guidelines. And then I have a couple of friends that are in physical therapy that are strongman competitors, and then a really close personal friend that's a physical therapist. And so basically I'm like, all right, these are the protocols that I'm planning on doing based off what I read. Any of this seem unreasonable? And they're like, oh, you're good. So that's where we're going right now. Yeah.
Nice. Were they able to did they use a cadaver, or were they able to use your own tissue?
Yeah, so I went with a patellar graft. So they actually take a piece of the kneecap in addition to the tendon, and hopefully the bone itself will adhere to the femur bone a little bit better than, you know, a tendon that doesn't have good blood supply. So the thought right now is that that's supposed to be the strongest, but it does come with more side effects. Like I will probably never feel the outside of my leg ever again on the skin because you do have to cut a nerve to get there. But I was looking for stability and really being able to just explode into those movements like, you know, the finger fingers when it was caving on me. I never wanted to feel that again. So I just want to not question it at all in terms of how strong it is.
So if they're looking at, because you said they're leaving the meniscus right now, but you've already had a meniscus cleanup on both sides. So are you at like a 30% left, or
yeah,
how much?
He didn't say. There's not a lot. I'll tell you that on the medial side. There's not a whole lot that's left there. So I'm feeling some pain on that side. We'll just see how it goes. And again, just kind of progress things and do it. If I'm not tolerating the movement, we'll see what needs to be adjusted to get back to that tolerance. But, you know, resistance training is going to be the answer to pretty much every musculoskeletal injury other than time. So I think we're in the right place and doing the right things.
Yeah, no, that's definitely because I messed up both my knees when I was in training with the SEALs. And so I ended up having meniscectomy on both sides, and I tore my MCL on my right knee. And so I had to have all that fixed up. And I think I have like 50% of my meniscus left on my right knee, and I'm down to like 30-ish% on my left knee. And so I was talking to the surgeon afterwards, and he was like, yeah, basically like next time, because there probably will be a next time something like this happens, we're going to have to do a meniscus replacement. And it's one of those things. So we were talking about that and walked through all that sort of stuff and everything. And it doesn't look like a lot of fun. So I was like, well, I'm going to keep these meniscus operating for as long as possible and hopefully just ride it out. But it's interesting because if like running irritates my knees, but heavy squats, like all that sort of stuff, I feel great. And I've noticed if I don't work out for a couple days, that's when my knees start hurting and aching and feeling stiff. So it's a good reminder to keep going and lifting weights and use and abuse, but honestly, they feel way better.
Yeah, and I mean that adage is right. Motion is lotion. I think is what we've gotten toward instead of being like the wear and tear when we talk about it. But, you know, we do have studies that resistance training, people think you're going to wear out your joints, but we have studies that it can actually regenerate cartilage and things like the meniscus to some degree. You're not going to go back to 100%, but at the end of the day, right, if you just completely wear out your knees somehow, I forget Vladimir's last name, but right, double knee replacement, and after a double knee replacement, still, you know, squatting 1,200 pounds, setting a world record. So that's what I'm hearing. Get a double knee replacement, get a world record in the squat.
They put hydraulics in there or something to give you a boost. Yeah, I know. Because after the surgery and everything, when we were talking about it, and he presented me with the option of basically like, well, we could try doing like a stem cell injection and see if something like that would help. But everything I have is handled by the VA, and they don't want to pay for it. And so I was like, I don't want to shell out 20 grand or whatever it is to do a stem cell injection because I don't have that cash. So maybe I can get a sponsorship at some point and do it that way.
Yeah, maybe.
This is kind of one of the interesting things too. I mean, like people like will take a medicine for like depression or something and it doesn't work. So what do? They try a different medicine, but they go to a physical therapist and it doesn't help them with their problem. And then this like immediately the next step is, all right, well, you failed that, just go to surgery. And people don't think like, well, maybe just try a different physical therapist that has like a technique that might work for you. It's like, we know we're not all going to respond the same, right? You look at compare me and Tyler, right? Tyler is a very explosive athlete, but he's just insanely statically strong. Whereas relative to the other guys, I just am not. So we're going to have different things that we respond to. And that extends all the way to actually dealing with a medical problem and an injury. So physical therapy is not working. Exercise is not working. Try something different. That doesn't mean you have to immediately go into surgery and, you know, have your shoulder replaced or something like that.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think it was really great because the PT that I ended up working for several years before I decided to go back to school to get my doctorate in physical therapy. He'd been working for over 40 years as a physical therapist. And so he opened his clinic before I was born. So that was kind of an interesting, you know, you're like, oh, wow, you've been here a hot minute. But it was really interesting because he'd been doing it for so long. We would get patients all the time coming from other clinics because they weren't seeing improvements. And then they talked to their friend and they're like, well, you definitely need to go and see Greg. And he was the type of guy where like the moment someone would walk in the room, he'd be like, oh, well, this is wrong. Let's work on this. And after 4 or 5 appointments, they're feeling dandy and on their way. Or he'd be, you know, right away be like, well, no, you actually need surgery for this. We're going to send you that way. And so it was really awesome working for someone like that who was so knowledgeable and who had worked in the field for so long. He actually knew what he was doing. But some of the guys coming fresh out of school, nothing against them, but it takes a couple years to establish yourself and actually get good at what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, physical therapy and medicine share this in general is, you know, at any given time, we're like 15 to 20 years behind on the research. So there's like all of this stuff that's coming out that like, you know, this surgery is probably not that good for the problem we're treating, or yeah, we don't really need to do this specific type of manual therapy to get good outcomes, but we're still doing it because like we're trained that way and there's this lag in the research catching up. So, I mean, it's constantly changing. So unless you're someone that's always reading, you can get stuck in an old paradigm and not be doing the best for your patients, or if you're managing your own physical therapy yourself.
Yeah, we have an oddball question in the comments, so we're going to take a break from this very informative segment. But what are your thoughts on Cale Beck? I've heard mixed things about him. Some like him, some don't. I've heard all positive things about Cale Beck. I think his content's great. I love it all. And he coaches Jessica Fitton, who's one of the strongest women in the world. So I have nothing but positive things to say. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I've only talked to him once, I think at 2017 Nationals in person. But, I mean, you're talking about a guy that there was nothing. There was no content. Like there was no instructional information on how to do strongman or anything like that. And he built all of that. So the only other person that I can think is in the same boat as far as being in on a boot on the ground in the start is like him and Alan Thrall. in terms of their content on YouTube from the start, and really changing a lot of people and giving them a place to go to for resources when, you know, you're 3 hours away from the nearest strongman gym. So I really appreciate what he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I've never met him face to face, but I've chatted with him online and stuff a couple different times. And, you know, I've been reading his stuff and watching his videos and everything for a while. And I've never come across anything that I don't really like with him. Some of the things I may not agree with 100%, but I mean, I don't think there's anyone online that I agree with 100%. So that's, you know, that's a moot point, I guess. So, but yeah, I think he's a great guy, and I think what he's doing is fantastic for the sport.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think as we wrap up for the evening, Dr. Mach, we really do appreciate all the time that you've given us this evening. It's quite a lot of time. It's been very entertaining, super informative. I know that I've learned quite a bit. Is there anything you'd like to promote before you go?
Yeah, I would just plug Strength Elite Collective, and you know, they're the ones changing the game that gave us this opportunity with Clash. So check them out. You know, they have training service, but really they're just changing the game for as far as the 231s. I mean, you can follow me on Instagram, Dr._Mach, if you just want to learn about the process that I'm going through for the ACL. I mean, if you're going through an injury, my hope was at some point to kind of create this like exercise compendium of like, hey man, how the heck do I train kegs or like some other load when I can't use my leg but I don't want to be completely deconditioned. So if you ever need to brainstorm about how to work around something, it's not going to be medical advice, but we can come up with some MacGyver way to, you know, keep training and doing the things that we love.
Yeah, I would really appreciate that, and I'll send people your way. And for folks that don't know, follow Dr._Mach on IG, Dr. Mach, and he's a great follow, and that's what I'll plug. Awesome. So we do really appreciate all the time you've given us. Anybody who's in the audience who has not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Please like this stream. And then as soon as we're done, please head over to Hunger Smash Fitness and subscribe to him as well and watch all of his wonderful content as well. So we'll wrap it up for the evening. Thank you for everybody in the audience. Thank you to Dr. Mach and to Tyler who joined us earlier. And until next time, as always, ciao, homie.
Thanks, guys. Take care.